Hey, what is up, everybody? Welcome to the channel and happy E3 2019. It's another year, and it's another year I'm covering it. I'm doing it a little bit differently this year. I'm going to be doing strictly highlights throughout E3 this year. And then at the end of E3, I'm going to be doing my Merry Chat podcast, which is my big podcast. And we're going to have the winner of E3, and then we're going to have a big highlight reel. But in between all of the press conferences and digital direct streams, I'm going to be having these smaller Merry Chat episodes to give you guys full coverage, especially those that don't have time to watch all the the conferences and streams and keep up with this crazy news. I know it's a crazy time of year, E3, and it's madness. And I've been covering it since the first E3, basically. And especially the early days on YouTube. So, let's get right into it. Today, well, actually, I'm going to go back. We're going to do Google Stadia. Google had their first press conference, because now we got new blood now in the gaming world with Google Stadia, with their new streaming system that's coming out, their new streaming service, if you will, that's coming out, which I'm actually going to be doing a giveaway in November. More information on that in the future. And today we had EA Play. Now, Electronic Arts did it a little bit different this year for E3. They're trying to say that they listened to fan feedback, and instead of doing a boring press conference like the last few, they did more of like a Nintendo Direct approach, where they just showed the games, but they kind of had a little, developer interviews in between each streamed game. So basically, the games were Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order, which really was the big one. Apex Legends, basically new content. Battlefield 5, new content. FIFA 20, Madden 20, and The Sims 4. So, nothing really to write home about. And definitely could figure out why they didn't really have a press conference. You could just sum this up in a digital direct stream, which is exactly what they did. But, but they sat down with some interviewers, some journalists, and they basically, talked while the gameplay was playing in the background. But for the most part, let's be honest, it's all about Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order. That's pretty much why everybody tuned in. So, I just wrote a little bit of a highlights reel here. And who knows if this is what EA is going to be doing going into the future. I just think it really has to do with a lot that they didn't have a lot to talk about this year, to be honest. And I think that this was the best route that they could take. And a lot of people are really following Nintendo. Everybody was cutting Nintendo up for years and years, and now everybody is doing it now. Everything is like digital now, digital directs now. It's like the future now. I call it, instead of EA Play, I call it EA Lazy, but that's just me. I like full-on press conferences. That's why I can't wait for Microsoft's. And it's sad about Sony, but, hopefully outside of E3, hopefully we hear what we want to hear from Sony, which is basically The Last of Us 2. We want to hear about that. So, but unfortunately no Sony at E3 this year. But I am looking forward to Nintendo's Directs, because they do knock it out of the park. So, Star Wars Fallen Order. Jedi Fallen Order. It's going to be a single-player experience. They showed world premiere gameplay, 15 minutes exact, of uncut gameplay. It looked good. It looked really good. I'm actually really interested in playing it. It's going to be coming out in November. The gameplay that they showed was actually 3 hours into the game, so it wasn't at the start of the game. So the campaign had already been going. They showed wall running. I put great graphics and sound. An Uncharted / Tomb Raider type feel to it is what I got from it. And it is coming out November 15th. Now, there's a couple things that I wanted to talk about this. as far as the which is the biggest part of this whole E3, this EA Play was the Star Wars. Everything else is, I wrote down some stuff, but everything else is mostly DLC and updated content coming to games that already exist, like Battlefield 5, Apex Legends, which is fine if you're a huge fan of them. And I think, I put on Twitter, I think it's great that they're updating them games and that they're not rushing sequels out. Like, oh, where's this next Battlefield? People just paid $60 not too long ago for Battlefield 5. Let them keep updating it. I'm fine with that. I think that's great that you're supporting a game. I wish Call of Duty would do that. But what I wrote down in my notes that I wanted to kind of talk about here, a side little thing here, is that I put chat was toxic, horrid chat harassment. Everybody was saying, oh, this is crap. And I think it has a lot to do with it because Star Wars is the most loved franchise. I think it has to do with EA. EA's name being behind it. Everybody's calling it a loot box, Fallen Order, Star Wars, the microtransaction series. We're going to get hit. I hope not. I'm optimistic for this game, but I understand exactly where they're coming from. I mean, look at Battlefront. This could be a fantastic, excellent experience, and it could be terrible. And with EA behind it, you never know. That's the problem. And I understand why they were being like that in the chat. But there's another side note to that. It also had to do with the host of this show, Greg Miller. Now, I've actually known Greg and talked to Greg for years, being in the gaming business and covering games on YouTube and being a big fan of IGN since the beginning and kind of funny. And I've had chats with Greg Miller and interviews and talks with him on forums and Twitter. He's very obnoxious and he is very loud. And I already knew when he was selected to host the event, I knew already what the chat and comments were going to be about. Sure enough, the live chat was nothing but, oh my God, shut up, stop screaming, shut up, stop screaming. Sure enough, I went on Twitter and it was all about him. I knew it, I called it. And I understand, there's a time and a place for cracking jokes and screaming and yelling. Not with Star Wars. Not when a game is being revealed that people have been wanting information about for a long time. Vince Zampella couldn't even get a word out in edgewise without being cut off, just so Greg could put out a stupid joke. I mean, I was getting very frustrated, and I already knew in my head, knowing the gaming community and knowing the Star Wars community don't play that game, And sure enough, and I don't understand why. It's like, nothing against, of course, Troy Baker and Nolan North. I love them to death. They're amazing voice actors. They're the best in the business. But it's like, every single developing company has to have them. It's like other voice actors don't exist. It's the same with Greg Miller. There's other journalists that can do the job. Every year, the same companies all try to get him. There's gaming journalists Ryan McCaffrey, Brian Altano, Adam Sessler, even older people that you could have gone, people that aren't even in the business anymore that still could have came on and did this. Daniel Dwyer from No Clip that used to be with GameSpot. Max Scoville even. I can name I can sit here and name game journalists. I know them all. Name game journalists all day that would have been great for this job. They know he's loud. They know he doesn't know how to speak at a lower tone. They know he does nothing but scream. And I don't even think it was part of that. I think it was cutting off the developers. They couldn't even get a word out in edgewise. There's fans here that waited all year to hear about this interview. And Vince Zampella is trying to explain people. And he's just like, oh, come on, let's go show gameplay. Come on, I'm Greg Miller. Come on, let's get to the next. Like, we have to listen to that on your show. We don't want to hear it here at E3. I mean, if you go on his show and if you follow him, that's one thing. But this is E3. We don't have to listen to this crap. But you know what? They hired him, and that's what they got. So I hope hey EA, do it next year. So 90% of the Star Wars stream, the information that we wanted to hear, was ruined from his screaming. I'm surprised he didn't talk over the gameplay when it was shown. Like they didn't have his mic on. God. But, you know, that's Greg, and that's what they got from him. And that's just to be expected. When I seen his name up on there that he was hosting it and he was going to be doing the interviews, I already knew. This happens every year. So, Apex Legends was shown. They gave a sneak preview of Season 2. They showed the new weapon. And then they showed a new legend that's coming. And they talked about the next Battle Pass, how they got a lot of things wrong with the first Battle Pass, and that they're going to fix it with the next Battle Pass. And a new gameplay mode that's coming. So, if you're a big Apex Legends fan, that's awesome. Battlefield 5, tons of new multiplayer maps are coming. They kind of sneak previewed some of them. And then Madden 20. They showed a lot of gameplay of Madden 20. They showed Madden gameplay. They talked about new features. They talked about the career campaign. And a lot of the in-depth geeky stuff that Madden fans love. All the customization and all that. So if you're a big Madden fan, there was a decent amount to see there. And one thing that I noticed when they showed the games that were going to be talked about, the one thing that hit me was no Anthem. But in between Battlefield and Madden, Greg Miller did talk to some developers about Anthem. And they basically just talked about the cataclysms that are coming. And that basically the public test servers are on PC. And that you could also play the Cataclysms if you're there at the booth. So people can get firsthand on the Cataclysms and see what they're all about. And that basically what they said is that, you know, the last few months were very rough. They're not giving up on the game. They're going to continue to support the game. There's a lot coming. And they hope, you know, to respond to fan feedback. And they hope that people enjoy the Cataclysms. Anthem is a whole different topic. I've talked about it on here before. But that's pretty much it. And then FIFA. FIFA and, whatchamacallit? Sims 4. Whatever. But listen, let's be honest. Basically, this Direct was about Star Wars. And I liked what I saw. I'm very interested. I will be picking it up in November. Again, just get a different host next time. It's ridiculous. I mean, you know, you're allowed to have some life in you and be energetic, but screaming and cutting off the developer and being rude and telling stupid jokes, and it's enough is enough. You know? Enough is enough. And let me tell you something. I'm not the only one. I went on Twitter and about 90 people, I talked to literally 90 people. They all agree with me. And I went and I searched, and his name was actually trending in U.S. trends on Twitter. And everybody was tweeting the same thing that was going through my head. I always know that I'm never alone because I'm pretty level-minded. And I always know that other gamers are thinking like I'm thinking. But it's just the way he is. And I'm sure he's a fantastic person in real life. I know he is. I know I knew him, you know, back in the day. But you're not going to change a person, you know. I don't expect a person to change. But hire somebody that maybe is a little bit more professional. Especially when you're dealing with Star Wars. You know, your fans are engrossed and zoned. And they want to hear every word that comes out of your mouth when you're talking about Star Wars. And if you're jabbering and joking and screaming, it doesn't really come off. So it was a rough start to E3, but it's EA. I'm looking for the big guns. I'm looking for Microsoft. I'm looking for Nintendo. And I am looking forward to Bethesda. Hopefully Square Enix don't screw it up again. Seems like they always do. But I will have my Merry Chat podcast at the end of E3. And we will find out who won. And I will have a big highlights reel. So I hope you join me. More E3 coverage all week. More updates, more gameplay, more live streams, more vlogs, more unboxings, more this, more that. I'll be seeing you guys again soon on Murray and JO8. See ya.